Namaskar. I am Dr. Nalini Avinash Wagmare, working as a assistant professor at the Maharashtra Vidyapit. Today's our topic is related to medieval Indian history. Under that, ideas and institution in medieval India. So under that, first topic is related to sources of medieval Indian history. So sources of various types. Under that, we have to literary and archaeological both sources we have to study. Even when we study the medieval India, actually started to some, according to some historian 10th century, according to some historian 8th century, actually it started to 1206 to 1707 up to the death of the Aurangzeb. Here this period, under that we have to study various rulers, dynasties, and historians also we find, even foreign historians also visited to India at that time, kept their records in various languages. That's why the medieval Indian history sources are not only available in regional language, but foreign language as well as Persian, Urdu, Arabic, Turki. Even you take the regional language, that time we find the Hindi, Kannada, Marathi, Telugu, Rajasthani, etc. So medieval India, the period northern of first dynasties we call as the Delhi Sultanate period. It started from 1206 to 1526. So first we study the slave dynasty. Under that, when we see Delhi Sultan Shahi as well as Mughal Shahi. So here we have to study the Delhi Sultan Shahi. But while consider the sources of medieval India, both dynasties, even some regional dynasty sources also helpful us to study the medieval Indian history. So here the Delhi Sultan Shahi, the five dynasties names we have to remember. Slave dynasty, its period is 1206 to 1286. Then Khilji dynasty 1292 to 1320. Then Tughlaq dynasty 1322 1414. Then Sayyid dynasty 1442 1451, and later last one Lodi dynasty 1451 to 1526. So when we study the Delhi Sultan Shahi administrative system, socio-economic life, contribution of art and architecture, culture, religion, that time we have to remember this five dynasties contribution to Indian culture and literature before the Mughal period. So these dynasties cover in this Delhi Sultan Shahi, under this Delhi Sultan Shahi. Then later we study the Mughal dynasty. There also we have to study the 6-7 rulers actually in the Mughal dynasty. Under that Babur, the period is 1526 to 1513. The Babur was also we say the founder of the Mughal dynasty in India. Then Humayun, his son. Then Akbar. We know the history of Akbar the Great. His religious policies, his political policies, his expenses of dynasty, and his Din-e-Ilahi, Mansabdari system, etc., etc. Then Jahangir, then Shah Jahan, then Aurangzeb, then other ruler. So here we have to study the up to the Babur to Aurangzeb detailed history we have to study here. But basically here the in this lecture only literary sources of this sources of the ruler. If Babur, then which books give information about to know the Babur? Then Humayun, which sources, literary, archaeological, as well as monument sources give information about the Humayun? Those things we have to study in detail in this lecture. Then again, in medieval period, we also find some three dynasties, that is the Vijayanagara dynasty, Bahamani dynasty, and Maratha period. So this, when we go to the Vijayanagara dynasty, Bahmani dynasty and Maratha period, because Delhi Sultan Shahi and Mughal dynasty, there basically we find the northern India, but they have also captured some parts of the southern parts and east and western parts. But particularly while we are studying the which contemporary dynasties, which when the northern India ruled by the Mughals, which are the southern South Indian dynasty which ruled by the which ruler and which dynasties. That time we have to study the Vijayanagara dynasty, Bahmani dynasty, as well as Maratha period. So the Bahmani period before Bahmani, Vijayanagara first 1336 to 1565. Then Bahamani dynasty 1347 to 1526. Then Maratha period 1630 to 1880. So in the Maratha period, we have to also briefly we have to study the Shivaji Maharaj, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj era, as well as the after Shivaji Maharaj the Peshwa period. So royal period as well as Peshwa period, both we have to study. But in our, which were the sources give information about these dynasties? Some are written in Persian language, some are written in Marathi language, some are written in Modi language, some are written, if you go to the Bahmani, then Turkic and Arabian language sources. If you go to the Vijayanagara dynasty, then Telugu and Kannada Tamil sources also give us information. Then silent features of medieval Indian historiography. When we have to study history of history, that time, which were the sources and what their characteristic mentioned in the while we study the medieval Indian dynasty. The Muslims before coming to India were in close contact with Persia, and as such, from there they had inherited consciousness in history writing. Their historiography had some salient features which are mentioned below. Eyewitness accounts, most of the medieval period, they are eyewitness one. Sense of cultural superiority, Arabic as well as Persian, even you take any South Indian dynasty, they also cultural superiority we find in their writing. Then less stress on legends, fiction, but more given importance to more focus on fact basis. And as well as religion as the main theme in their writing we find, because Bhakti movement also started, as well as the in medieval period you go to the church history, as well as Christian history, as well as Arabic Persian history. Basically, we find the religious is the main theme. Whatever happening because of Allah, because of God, because of Lord Shiva, whatever things. So those things, while we are studying, we find these things also in their writing. Less attention to conditions of common man, because in this time they have to write ruler, his conquest, his activities, his war, as well as expenses of territories. These all points we find in the in these sources. And no critical outlook was there, or whatever there they have written kept in the record. Then history, large number of biographies are there, right? Because of the Prithviraj Chauhan's history also come. Then again the Babar Nama, as well as Akbar Nama, Humayun Nama, Pasha Nama, Alamgir Nama. So these are the biographies which give information about us. Then history attaches some significance. Recording of regional history is also fine, because if you go to the Bidar, or there we find the Bahmani dynasty, Hampi, then we find the Vijayanagara dynasty. If you go to the Maratha, Pune, or some other places, then you find the Peshwas as well as the Shivaji's dynasties history we find there. Then views about history, for them history is succession of divine acts, they have mentioned. Avoidance of chronological confusion, because chronology very clear cut we find in history, this medieval period. In ancient period, sometime southern ruler, northern ruler, same period, same title we find, but that not took place in the medieval period. They have, after Babar, direct chronology come to the Shah, then again the Humayun, then again come to the Akbar, then again other rulers. So one of the main what we expect from the history, the chronology, which is be a clear cut find in this medieval period. Take the example of Vijayanagara or Bahmani or Maratha ruler, or Delhi Sultan Shah, or what is the Mughal rulers. The chronology, the sequence, the contemporaries, the rulers and their activities very clearly mentioned in their writings. History as a profession started this time, because some rulers appointed the history persons or writers as a court historian. So at least at this time, the beginning of court historian writing or history as profession, they are considered. Then main categories of history produced during Sultanate period: literature or teaching of Sufi saints. Like in Bhakti movement in Indian literature, we find that saints poets work is also one type of literature, because most of the, you take the Abhangas, you take Kabir Nama, Kabir Miras Dohes, even the Bhakti movement in, if you take 12th century in Karnataka, in Basveshwar Vachanas. So these related to Bhakti movement. If you take the Sufi saints, these or their writings, give a lot of information which is available to us to understand the medieval India in any detailed manner. Then Wasiya names also there. Then general history is also there. Prose written in someone's praise, that is appreciating particular rulers. Prose also available, which give information about the medieval India. Then didactic history and artistic history also we find. So these are the few. Then history during Sultanate period, well read and popular history of the period where some great historians also we find in medieval period that Al-Biruni, Amir Khusro, Ziauddin Barani, Ibn Battuta, Shamsi Siraj Afif, Farist Ahmad Yadgar, among others. These all written a very good history which contributed to make which reconstructs the history of medieval India. These all are helpful to us. Then Mughal period's history, we find that during this period, art of history writing became very sober and dignified against earlier period when it was less mature and less sober. So whenever a student writing the history, this is considered a very good status in the society. Attention was paid to common man and society. The Mughal rulers were much more history conscious than the rulers of Sultanate period. Much attention paid to fine arts and to cultural aspects in the history writing. Whenever you open the Mughal period history, art, architecture, culture, monuments, rulers' activities, protection of their religion, as well as protection of art and culture, fine arts also, those are all find in the one of the feature of Mughal period. In Mughal period, efforts were made to free history from religion. Thus, to an extent, history became secular. In this period, historians tried to find out their causes and interpreted this as they themselves assessed events. Efforts were made to use authentic material in history writing. Then what type of say historiography or literature available related to Mughal period? Official history is there. Gazetters and official manuals are also available. Government records are also there. Local and provisional history is available. Biographies and memories also there. Library works is there. Non-official history as well as collection of letters. These all give us information about the Mughal period. Then Mughal history writing, when we go to the Mughal sources to history writing or sources of Mughal period, that time Babar's Baburnama, which is a world famous book, which is written by Babar. Then this book is translated into various languages because Babar was written everything, whatever about India, and he ruled India and he conquered India and how he feel in India. Those all things found in this book. Then Gulbadan Begum's Humayun Nama, because Humayun was very busy in political and other activities at that time. So his sister written this book, Humayun Nama, which give information about Humayun's conflict with the Sher Shah Suri, as well as how he conquered the India again and how he established the Mughal dynasty again in India, and how he patronized the art and the architecture. Those all things mentioned in this book. Then Jahangir's own autobiography, Tusike Jahangiri, which give detailed information about the Jahangir, Noor Jahan's and other political activities of this period and how he patronized the art and paintings at that time. Then Abul Fazl's Akbarnama is very famous one. This book give information, detailed information about the Akbar's early life, his political life, his territory expenditures, and then his religious, Deen-e-Ilahi, Mansabdari system, and his relation with what we matrimonial relation with the Rajputs, as well as political communications with Hindus. Those are all things mentioned here, and how he became the Akbar the Great in medieval period, and how he was a secular ruler of that time. Everything mentioned in this book. Then Mullah Hassan Badoni's Mukte Tawari. So this give information about the then again the Hamid Lahori's Pasha Nama, Muhammad Kazim's Alamgir Nama, Muhammad Sakir, Masiri Alamgiri, Abbas Khan's Tariq-e-Sher Shahi, then Khwaja Nizamuddin Ahmad Tabaqat-e Akbari. So on Akbar, so many historians given the written books on that time, and those all give information about the Akbar. See, Alamgir Namaya give information about the Aurangzeb. Then again, we say that the sources of medieval Indian history, three types: indigenous, the under the Sanskrit, Marathi, and Persian, other languages. Then foreign language sources say English, Dutch, Portuguese, and French, who came at that time in 16th century. They wanted to establish their companies in India and take the permission of the rulers. And later on, they make India as their colony, and they rule the India. So there's even foreign accounts also give information about that time. Along with literary sources, some archaeological sources also give us information about the medieval period. Under the monuments, palaces, forts, temples, historical sites, coins, inscriptions, they all give us information about the medieval period. Under Persian sources, which is very important, Tarikh-e-Ghazia, the Chachnama, Tabaqat-e-Nasiri, Tarikh-e-Muhammadi, Tarikh-e-Firozshahi, Tarikh-e-Hind. Even under foreign sources, Tavernier, Abul Razak, Manucci, Hawkins, Marco Polo, Niccolo Conte, Niketan, etc. These all foreigners who visited India at the time and kept their record in their language, which is also helpful to understand, to know more about the medieval period. Then literary sources, Sultanate and Mughal period, Tariq-e-Jahan Atham Malik, Tariq-e-Ghuzia, Chachnama, again the same books are repeated here. Then Chachnama is Delhi Sultan Shahi. If you want to know the more about Delhi Sultan Shahi, first book is Chachnama. Is the first such chronicle which gives us an insight into the caste-ridden people of Sindh on the view of the Arab invasion. It focuses on Chachar dynasty Rajput culture which was existing at the time. Then Al-Biruni was a famous historian. The celebrated author of Tariq-ul-Hind was the first prominent Muslim Indologist who accompanied the invading hordes of Muhammad of Ghazni into the Indo-Gangetic Valley, sometimes in 1018 to 19 as freelance writers. It is an authentic primary source of information about the socio-religious condition of India of the Muhammad of Ghazni's times, because Muhammad Ghazni invented on India 17 times. That information given by his book, that is Al-Biruni's book. Hasan Nizami Tajul Masiri records the military exploits of Muhammad Ghori and the beginning of the Turkish rule in India from 1191 to 92 to 1217. Its medium of expression is a unique mixture of Arabic and Persian language we find in this book, but it gives information Ghaznis after Ghazni who invented on India, that is Ghori's information gives us. Then Tabaqat-e-Nasiri focus on Ghazni, Ghori, Central Asia, Islamic theology, political and military general Sultanate period, detailed information. Then Tariq-e-Firozshahi, Balwan to Firoz Shah Tughlaq, Sultan's history mentioned in this book. Then Jahandari Firoz Shah, complementary volume to the first book, political philosophy, Islamic theory of kinship, law, punishment, problems, etc. mentioned. This book gives us information. Then Shamsi Siraj Afif, Tariq-e-Firozshahi, which is focused on Firoz Shah Tughlaq's reign. It gives us information about the political, military, and administrative system of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Then Amir Khusro, who was the famous author, and he wrote so many books under that. Which books give information about medieval period? Then first, he was a professional historian. Tut-e-Hind, the parrot of Tota-e-Hind, the parrot of India book gives us a lot of information. Then Tariq-e-Ilahi is a historical composition prose which describes the conquest and other achievements. Alauddin Khilji's information. Then Tughlaq Nama, it is focused on Tughlaq dynasty from beginning to its decline. Also mentions socio-religious condition. Diwal Rani Khizar Khan, Ashika. This is also written by Amir Khusro. It narrates the romantic story of Khizar Khan, son of Alauddin Khilji and Demala Devi Rani, the daughter of Rana Karan of Gujarat, and brief information to the military expenditure of Alauddin Khilji. Again, the other books, Nupur Sipiri deals with the reign of Mubarak Shahi. Amir Khusro's works are like a mirror through which we can see a very clear picture of the life and condition of the people of Hindustan for full 4 decades when the Sultanate Delhi was at the apex of its glory. Then other books, Khwaja Abdul Malik Isami's Qutuz Salatin also give information about the um, Delhi Sultan Shahi, the memories of Amir Taimur, Tuzuki Temuri. This give authentic book of bloodthirsty monster who took Delhi by storm in 1398 to 99. That information also given by this book. Then under Mughal sources, the famous is Babur, the founder of Mughal rule in India, occupies a place of pride among the contemporary writers. His autobiography variously styled as the Tujuke Babari, Wake Baburi or Babarnama constitute the first grade authority not only of his own career but also the know the history of India at that time. Then Gulbadan Begum's it is focus on Humayun's life sketch and his character. Then Babur's memories, that is Tujiki Baburi is very famous because it's translated by, actually written in Turkey, it's translated by Painanda Khan and Abdur Rahim. The description Babur is clear, impressive and quite near the truth. So of course he misunderstood many things, particularly in case of India, and therefore has given wrong description at several places. Babur has given events of his life in memories concerning India. He has written about the climate, the people, their economic and social condition, and kings and their political activities. Babur's first impression about India was not good, and therefore he gave adverse remarks about the life and culture of the Indian people. However, he describes that India has a abundance of gold and silver, and the rainy season here is fine. The description of India by Babur is neither complete nor entirely correct because he did not get time to come in contact with the Indians. But whatever times he get, that is that we find in his book. Besides, he viewed India from the point of view of a conqueror, not as a ruler at the time. And the memories of Babur have been regarded as a great historical and literary importance. Then Abul Fazl's Akbarnama constitute the main source of our knowledge about the history of Akbar, about his times. Akbarnama is monumental work in 3 volumes. The first volume contains an account of Akbar's ancestors, including that of Babur and Humayun. Then while the second one is devoted exclusively to the exhaustive treatment of Akbar's reign in chronological order. And the third volume of Akbarnama has been given a subtitle, The Ain Akbari. It focuses on Mughal Empire political, administrative, economical, and cultural information. Then autobiography of the Emperor Jahangir, Tujiki Jahangiri is by for the most compact and compressed record in chronological order of the political, social, cultural development of his reign of for the last first 18 years history it gives us. Then again, Shahjahan Nama, also other books here we information about Shahjahan. Then Alamgir Nama, Mirza Muhammad Kazim's produced the chronicle of the contemporary events covering the first decade of Aurangzeb's reign under the Alamgir Nama. The Gulshan-e-Ibrahim, popularly known as Tariq-e-Firista of Muhammad Qasim Hindustan alias Firista, is a general history of Muslims in rule in India up to the accession of the Jahangir. This Firista book also gives information about the Bahmani dynasty and Vijayanagara period also. Then Bhimsen Nushike Dilkashi is especially useful as the primary source of our information regarding the affairs of Deccan. Then Abbas Khan's Tariq-e-Sher-Shahi, it is also give information about the Sher Shah, which he has tried to codify faithful and thorough the pages of his book, Sher Shah Surya, as well as Humayun's conflicts. Then directly we go to the European accounts. European have left valuable description of their observation experience in the land of the Grand Mughals in the form of diaries and travelogues, personal letters, and communications addressed to their friends and relations in Europe, official papers and account books of their trade, religion, or political activities, and reports of such missions to the courts of Mughal emperors, their provincial governors, and other local rulers. Richard William Hawkins, Sir Thomas Roe, Sir James Lancaster, William Hedges, Peter Munde, John Borden, Petro della Valle, and many others. Travelers published by Richard Hawkins, the principal navigation voyages discoveries in 1903. The Hawkins voyage edited by Sir Clements. Then again, voyage of Sir John Actually, this travelers book give information about medieval period. Then the other travelers we find which is authentic than what earlier find is that is translated one. But who are the original writers that time? Ibn Battuta occupies a premier position among the early travelers. He was an Arab adventurer from Morocco who was an expert in Islamic theology and jurisprudence. Ibn Battuta wrote his travel Kitab-e-Rihla in Arabic, a part of which is devoted to his experience of the Indian life at Delhi and Madura. Abdul Razak, the book also give information about Vijayanagara dynasty. Niccolo Conte's accounts also Vijayanagara and Bahamani dynasty. Marco Polo's also Bahamani as well as other British period. Then Barbossa's give information about the Vijayanagara and Bahamani dynasty. Then directly we go to the archaeological sources which also give information about the Mughal period. The remains in whatever form assure us that we have concrete proof of that time. Among the various forms, we will concentrate on coins, forts, monuments, and temples. Then coins. The coins of Sultanate period, the dinar, the tanka, the jital are remarkable for the workmanship and the content of the previous metal. The great experiment of Muhammad Tughlaq in the currency reform gives a clear idea of the economic condition of the time. The gold and silver coins were to be replaced by copper coins, which were to be used as tokens. Firoz Tughlaq introduced Adheli and Bika. Sher Shah introduced a rupee coin and a copper coins called Dam and Paisa. The Mughal rulers continued the currency. The coins of Akbar's period reveal much information regarding the economic condition and social tendencies also. The Muslim rulers rejected the style of embossing images on the metal coins. However, Akbar issued some coins with images of Hindu deities. The coins of Shivaji also furnish a lot of information. So these are the medieval period coins. A few examples are mentioned. The coins of Khilji dynasty. Then the coins of Vijayanagara dynasty. Then Old Tanka, Sultan, in the right side Bahmani dynasties. Sultan Ahmad Shah III Bahmani, Bahmani Sultanate Muhammadabad Bidar. Then the forts. Forts are available all over India. So this also one of the authentic monuments which give information about the medieval period, related ruler, their state system and other things. In the plains of northern India, the forts and fortresses far and far between. Among the famous forts from the medieval period of forts of Chittor, Ranthambore, Bharatpur, Daulatabad and Agra are outstanding. However, the forts built in the Western Ghats attracts the attention of historians. Shivaji had in his possession about various forts, two types of forts in his under. They were built on hilltops and the plains and even in the sea. We find in history Shivaji in his hand 360 forts are in his rule under his rule. The sea forts of Sindhudurga, Vijayadurga, Janjira and Basin were famous during the 17th century. The forts tell us many things about the methods employed by the rulers to defend their territories. The important forts of Sinhagad, Rajgarh, Panhala, Pesi, Janjira tell their own stories, how they are conquered and how they are protected the people and how ruler expanded his territories and how forts are helpful to them to protect the people. Then other monuments, the Hindu rulers of the earlier medieval period were used to erect a victor pillar to mark the occasion. Ranakhamba built a victory pillar at Chittor in 15th century. The Qutub Minar built by slave Sultan Qutubuddin Aibak, founded and completed by the Iltutmish near Delhi, stands in all its glory even today to tell the story of that time. The monuments such as Muslim built by Akbar known as Humayun Tomb and the Taj Mahal built by Emperor Shah Jahan at Agra are a great structure of the time. The Buland Darwaja at Fatehpur Sikri by Akbar, the Gol Gumbad built by Adil Shahi Sultan at Bijapur, the Palatinium built by Raja of Jaipur. So whenever there's only brief information in one chart I am showing. Actually, when we studied detail related to art and architecture, Delhi Sultan Shahi contribution of Mughals to art and architecture, that time we studied detail. Here these forts, monuments, temples, pillars, Their Vijayastambha give information, first-hand information about the ruler. Then the Mehragan Fort, located in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, is one of the largest fort in India. Then Red Fort, Bhuja Fort, Gwalior Fort, Mughal Fort, Bidar Fort, Chittor Fort, Cha Fort. So some Red Fort and Pilli and Bidar Fort in the right side. One is northern fort, one is southern fort mentioned. Then mosques and temples also very give us lot of information. Some famous temples as Saurashtra, Mathura, Banaras, other pilgrim places have perished. The temples south did not suffer that fate. The medieval temples at Kolhapur, Ambarnath, Mahabalipuram, Tanjore are still in a good condition. The mosques built during Muslim rule, however, are still in good conditions. In the south, the mosque at Gulbarga and Bidar, the Jama Masjid at Delhi, the Adina Masjid at Pandua, and the mosques in Purana Killa at Delhi are still in a good conditions. Then some monuments in medieval period: Taj Mahal, Charminar, Mysore Palace, Lotus Temple, Victoria Memorial, Golden Temple, Gol Gumbaj, Hawa Mahal, Qutub Minar, India Gate, Red Fort. This all give us information about medieval period as well as Delhi Sultan Shahi and how transformation took place medieval to modern period. Then Qutub Minar, Humayun Tomb, then Gol Gumbaj and Taj Mahal, that is world famous wonder of the world. So for here the only few little sources of Mughal dynasties, then the monuments, some temples, as well as some points, how they give us information to reconstruct the medieval Indian history, to understand more about medieval Indian history. So these are the few sources very briefly explained in this lecture. For more understanding, you have to refer these books. Herman Cooke's book, State in India, as well as Seema Alvi's book, 18th Century in India, V.D. Mahajan book, Medieval India, Satish Chandra book, also Medieval India. Then other books also, even Nilakanta Shastri book, South Indian history also, you can refer for Bahamani and Vijayanagar period. Thank you.